Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Escoffier Online. I'm Chef Caesar. Today we're going to have an interesting topic. I'm making some lobster crepes, and you're going to see that this is very simple to make. I already made my crepes ahead of time. You see a lot of ingredients at the top of the table. Well, everything has a place. But we're going to start by making our sauce, which is going to make like a stock, basically. I have my meat already cut up in here, some onions, celery, carrots, some shallots, some garlic I want to be using. We're going to start with adding some little clarified butter. We're going to saute our vegetables. We're going to sweat them a little bit, bring some of the flavor out. And feel free to ask me questions along the way. You guys do a good job doing that, so just keep doing that. So we're going to be sweating our vegetables here. I'm going to add some of my shallots. We're basically making like a little stock for the sauce. Here I got some lobster base. Normally in a restaurant setting, sometimes we use this. It's what we call a convenience product, just to make it easy, to make something quick. But also we make stocks, like the same way you do a chicken stock or a beef stock with lobster pieces. We buy what's called lobster stilts. So like broken lobster, they're missing the claw, only the heads come attached, and they're cheaper. So they're basically made to for a stock, and that's what we use. Okay, now I got my vegetables sweating here. I'm gonna add a little white wine. You can use any kind of white wine. I'm using Sauvignon Blanc. You can use a Chardonnay or a Chablis. Just as long as it's not a sweet wine. You don't want to make it too sweet because we're using some champagne to finish off the sauce. So we want to kind of reduce our wine by half. And going back to my, I was talking about the lobster base, and you can buy this like the way it is, or if you want to do a little extra work, you can buy some lobster shells and make the sauce, which is kind of hard for you guys to go out to the grocery store. They really don't have them, but when, like I was saying, working in the restaurant, you can get a lot of products that you normally don't. But if you don't want to take a lot of time making the stock and making a nice stock with the lobster pieces, you can also buy a base. They come really nice. It's a good, nice, convenient product, like I said before. So now we have our wine and the mirepoix reducing over here. We're gonna add a little water. This is gonna, be our stock pretty much to make the sauce. Now, I'm adding some of this base to the stock, which normally I would be making with some shells, but since you guys can find some of this at the store, it'll be easy for you guys to make it at home. I want to let it go here. Make sure you dissolve the base in the liquid. It's going to give you a nice, red color. In the meantime, we're going to prepare lobster tails here. We're going to cut them up to make little chunks, and you can buy lobster meat already in little chunks. It's frozen, but I found some lobster tails too, and I want to show you how to fix them up or take the meat out of there. If you want to do a nice lobster tail, if you want to broil this, it's nice. I want to show you how to get it ready. You have some scissors at home. You want to cut the back like this. If not, you can just cut all the way down with a knife. You now want to use, if you're just gonna use the meat and throw the shells away, but now I'm gonna be using this shell to go into my stock. It's gonna be nice. You wanna, open it up. Be careful. These things are kind of sharp. You might, cut your fingers. Be really careful when you crack it open. Okay. You wanna pull the meat away from the shell. See, it's not that complicated. These are little tiny ones, so. There's so many different sizes out there, they go by pretty much by the pound. These are little small ones. And you pull up the meat like this, and there's like a vein here. You want to take it out of here. It's like a shrimp. So sometimes they have them, sometimes they don't. So you want to, lift it up like this. Kind of close the shell behind underneath. And live like this. Now you can at this point, you can put it in the broiler and bake it. You want to put some like clarified butter, little season, some salt and pepper, a little paprika, and then put it in the oven or in the broiler for about this one is kind of small, maybe 8 to 10 minutes to be ready because you don't want to overcook it. See, lobster doesn't have a lot of fat, and the meat's like a shrimp, and it can get overcooked really quick. So be careful when you do that. But at this point, I'm not gonna bake it or broil it, so I'm gonna take it off. Just take the meat out of the shell here, because I'm gonna cut it into little chunks. Okay, and these I'm gonna throw in my stock. I'm gonna rinse it off a little bit. It's gonna add a nice flavor. You wanna simmer this for a few minutes. Over here, I'm gonna cut up this into little small pieces for my crepes. Okay. It's really delicate. You guys knew in the old days, nobody wanted to eat these lobsters. They were given to like the pigs and to like the people in prison. They were not like, they were seen as something for the poor man's. Nowadays, there's not the case. They're so expensive, and it's not like anybody can really go and buy one because the times have changed. Make sure I want to wipe my cutting board because I gotta chop some more vegetables in there. Make sure you guys do that. Sanitation is very important when you're dealing with some raw meat or seafood, whatever the case might be. Make sure you wipe it down. You can make your own sanitizing solution with some water and bleach. Very simple, very effective. Now that we have our, normally I would let this go. If I was just making it with some lobster shells, it would go for about an hour or so. But since I have a lobster base in there, you don't have to do that. So the flavor's already there. But if you want to really get a nice stock, you're gonna let it go for a while, a little over an hour, I would say so, and then you can reduce it down. It's not gonna get thick like a veal stock because there's no collagen in the shells. But again, if you reduce it down, the flavor is gonna be really intensified, be nice and nice flavor for your stock. Maybe someday, if you get some like lobster tails, you can try to make the stock just like this without the base, and it's gonna come out really nice. You want to add a little tomato paste in that case to make it nice color. I also add some like one bay leaf, a little thyme. But now that we I have this boil for a few minutes, I'm gonna strain this and make our sauce. In the meantime, I want to chop some green onions. I'm gonna be using this to make our filling for the crepes. Also, I'm going to add a little tomato in there. And you can make the crepes ahead of time. I already did that. I made them this morning. And then you can just heat them up back, when you're ready to fill them. As you can see, it's really, easy. There's nothing to worry about. You guys can do it. Just like I kept saying, you guys, it's so easy and simple. Now I'm going to turn this down a little bit. Cook again. Also, I'm going to chop some tomatoes here. I got to take the seeds out of here, so I'm going to cut them in quarters. I don't want any seeds in my crepe, so take the seeds out of here. And you guys can make the sauce ahead of time too, so there's a lot of prep that goes into it. Normally we don't do this all at once. We might have the sauce already done, in the restaurant setting. You have the sauce made ahead of time. Maybe not the crepes because it's so easy to make, but again, we just put them together. But the sauce would be a good idea to have it ready to go, just especially if you have like a special going on. You will not be doing this, to order. You would try to make as much work ahead of time to make, things easy when the rush time comes. And that's how normally we do it. It's just a way of planning your day. It's for a chef, it's very important to plan your day out and make sure to do as much prep as you can ahead of time. So when the busy time comes, you're not stuck running around, trying to, get things done in a hurry, which sometimes there could be, a hassle, and it's really complicated to do sometimes, because especially when it's very busy. So now that we have our tomato chop, I'm gonna go back here and strain my stock here. as you can see. And you guys are going to get the recipes as well for the the crepes, the sauce, and the whole process along with the video. So there you go. Turn it back on. I'm gonna let it come to a boil again. I'm gonna use my pig pan here. Better. There you go. I believe we have a question from one of the students over here.
How long do you have to cook lobster stock?
The question was, how long do you have to cook lobster stock for? Well, actually, about an hour. You would cook about an hour, and then after you strain, if you want to have a little more stronger, you can reduce it down. Just let it simmer. But normally, you cook it for about 1 hour, like you saw me doing. Sweat your vegetables. Saute them first, and then you add the shells and the lobster heads. After that, you let it go for about an hour. After then, you want to strain it, and if you need to make it a little stronger, you can just reduce it down. The flavor is going to intensify. Okay, now I'm going to add some of the cream here. Okay. If you want to go, a little lighter, you can also use milk instead of cream. I use a heavy cream to make the sauce, but it comes out really nice and smooth. But if you want to kind of cut down the calories, that's fine too. You can use milk as well. We have another question over here from one of our students.
Can the lobster stock be frozen and for how long?
The question was, can you freeze lobster stock? Yes, you can. Just like the same way you can freeze beef stock or demi-glace, you can freeze lobster stock. You can do it, 6 months, 5 months. You don't want to leave it there too long because if you don't cover it really well, it's going to absorb flavors from the rest of the items you got in the freezer. So that's one of the things. Sometimes people think that if you have something frozen, it's going to be good forever. Well, no. The cold is going to start to dehydrate the product. It's going to become like a sponge. All the moisture is going to go away. And before you know, I'm sure some of you have seen this. They work in the restaurant business. Sometimes you leave something too long in the freezer and it turns white. Well, this is it's called freezer burn. Because all the liquid in the product is evaporating, so you end up with looks like a styrofoam, piece of product, whatever the case might be. So yeah, you can freeze it for about 5 to 6 months. We have another question here.
How do you know that lobster has cooked completely, and what are the indicators?
How do you know when lobster is cooked completely? What are the indicators? That was the question. Well, when you know the lobster is cooked, it's like a shrimp. Okay, you don't want to really overcook lobster. It's really easy to cook it, but at the same time, it's kind of complicated to time it. It's it's just by look, feel, and the texture. You want to also use a thermometer if you feel more comfortable. Because it's got a little more surface area to test it. But like a shrimp doesn't have a lot, so pretty much when you cook this for many years, you kind of get to know just by looking at the product. When it's done, the texture is gonna change and the color as well. It's gonna be look, it's not gonna be like pink like shrimp cooks. It's gonna stay a little nice and white. It's gonna become white. But again, if you wanna use thermometer, use that, or you just wanna kind of by feel, by touching the product, you're gonna know that when it starts to get firm, it's cooked. Because right now it's it's not kind of firm, but not as much. When it cooks, it becomes a little firmer, and that's how you know when to take it out of the heat. Now we're going to add a little champagne here. Okay. You can see that. I'm going to add a little salt and pepper. And one thing too, when we're making white sauces and whatever, it's better white soups. It's better to use white pepper. It doesn't look really, nice when you have little black dots all over the place. So white pepper is more nice to use. That way you don't get to see a little bunch of little pieces floating around, especially making a white sauce or a white soup. I'm sure some of you guys know already when you guys make your clam chowder soup. I already mentioned that before. Okay. We have another question over here. The question was, should you use expensive champagne or the cheap stuff? Well, I use something cheap today. This is regular cheap champagne, probably $11 a bottle. You really don't have to go use expensive one. But if you want to use expensive one, it's up to you. If you got the money to go get it, feel free. But again, you don't really have to use expensive, champagne. Now we're gonna thicken up our sauce. I made some roux. I already talked to you guys about how making roux. When you do, make a roux, you use equal parts butter to flour. So that's how a roux is done. And I got a blonde roux that I made ahead of time as well. We have another question here.
What is the function of champagne in the stock, and does it impart flavor and acidity?
What's the function of the champagne in the stock? Does it impart flavor and acidity? Well, yes. The function basically is to get a flavor profile and the sauce. Now, and also it's gonna be a little more acid because of champagne, but some of this is gonna cook away, when you simmer the sauce. But the flavor is gonna stay there. So the main idea behind it is to have a flavor for the sauce. Now we're gonna add a little roux here to my sauce that I made ahead of time, and make sure you guys whisk it down really good, incorporate it into the sauce. Otherwise, it's gonna be a little lumpy, as you can see. Starts to get thick right away. Now we got a nice sauce. Now we gotta make sure you taste it. Make sure you got enough seasonings in there and salt and pepper. It's very important when you're a chef. You don't want to just make something and put it out there. It's like every dish that you make, you have to taste it. Make sure everything is perfect the way you want it. It's good. If it gets a little too thick, you can also add a little more cream or milk to thin it down. Okay, this is good. I'm going to take it off. Just cook a little bit more. You're going to get a nice, like a sweet flavor from the sauce, from a lobster sauce. It's basically typical. We have another question here. The question was, can you use a white or red wine when making a lobster stock? You don't want to use red wine. That's going to change the color of the sauce. And white wine is great to use, but now I wouldn't use red wine, because you're going to end up with a funny looking sauce. It's now not, the flavor is going to be a little different, because white wine is a little more tannin, and it's just going to change the flavor profile. You want to stick with a white wine, a lighter flavor. That goes better with seafood. So we're going to take this out of the heat here. So I want to start making my, cooking the sauce, the lobster pieces, and making the filling for the crepes. I got a nice little pan here, not too big. We want to start with some little butter again. And you don't need too much, just enough to saute the lobster pieces around. As you can see, this starts to change color right away. The outside part starts to get pink like a shrimp do, but the actual flesh, it gets a little whiter. Okay. It smells wonderful here. You can tell when it starts to cook. It starts, like I said, to change color, and also the texture starts to get a little firm. That's a good indicator that the lobster meat is cooking. I'm also going to deglaze the pan with a little more champagne here. I love using champagne, so as you can tell. Here, need very little. And this is something you would do to order. You wouldn't cook this meat ahead of time, or like, in the restaurants, that didn't keep it in the steam table. They would just, get rubbery overcooked. So you want to do this to order. You don't want to cook it ahead of time, okay? You want to. Now we're going to add some of our sauce here, okay? There we go. This is gonna be so good. Now we have our lobster chunks cooking in the sauce. You see, it's not very thick. It's nice and silky. This is what you want. You don't want a lumpy sauce. That's why you have to break down the roux when you're like, making the sauce. It's very important that you whisk, briskly when you add in the roux right away. Okay. Now we're gonna turn this down because this is almost ready to be served. At this point, I'm gonna add some of my onions there, and also some of this diced tomatoes. Okay. There we go. Just get them nice and warm. And this could be a nice, maybe breakfast, lunch, or even a dinner entree. You can make a wonderful, dish with these crepes. Sometimes we think crepes just, breakfast, but I mean, you can add so many different types of fillings for the crepes. It's just one of those things. You can have them sweet, savory. Use them for dessert. Today we're using lobster, of course, savory dish, which is wonderful. And now I'm gonna add a little more seasoning here. There's my black white pepper. Look at that. And this is what it looks like, when it's done. The mixture, you're gonna see a nice creamy sauce with the chunks of lobster. You can also use shrimp or crawfish. You don't have to basically use lobster here. If you want to do it with shrimp, you would make a shrimp stock, or even use a lobster stock, but use shrimp and put other seafood in there as well. Scallops work really good as well. We have another question by some.
Can the sauce be served as a garnish or as a side, as a possible option to simmering the lobster meat in the stock? Do you understand that?
No, can you repeat that question again?
Can the sauce be used as a garnish or as a...
Can the sauce be used as a garnish or like a... I assume it's for like a dish. You can use the sauce to make other dishes like a pasta. You can make a wonderful pasta using a lobster sauce, or you can make a lobster bisque. Instead of making the sauce, you make a wonderful lobster bisque. That's soup. A nice silky soup, which is wonderful. This what I was saying. When you make stocks, normally we don't use stock by itself. It always goes in something different. In this case, when you make a lobster stock, it goes in sauce like this or a lobster bisque, which is wonderful. I would recommend you guys trying that. Now that we have our stuffing, our filling ready for the crepes, at this point, you will make the crepes. But since I already made them ahead of time, I'm only gonna heat them up in my pan here. And like I say, you can make the crepes ahead of time. And I'm just gonna warm them up a little bit here to plate them. I got my this for my garnish. I saved the head. And I'm going to show you, in the restaurant, we also serve this as a garnish in the final dish, but sometimes it looks like dull. What you do to make them nice and shiny, you get a little oil or whatever, like olive oil or just oil, and rub them here. It's like with polishing, okay? It's like a full polish. And see how nice it looks? It's nice and shiny, and it's going to be a nice presentation. It doesn't look like the dull color looking. So I just have a little oil, I'm rubbing on the shell, and see? It's nice and shiny for presentation. So I always keep telling you guys, presentation is a big thing. When you're, working, when you're a chef, you have to work on that. So it's part of the job and part of being, creative. When you're a chef, it's one of those things that, you have to feel proud of yourself. When it goes out to the table, that's the culmination of all the hard work you do. And it's like nothing better for the chef when the customer tells you how great the dish looks and tastes. That's one of those things that, chefs live for, and, we love it. So I just want to heat them up here. Very quick. We have another question over here.
What complements this dish?
What complements this dish? Well, the question was, what complements this dish? Well, this is basically the sauce. If you have a great sauce, and you cook the lobster properly, this is what gives you the nice flavor. Because the crepes, really by themselves, they have nothing. It's just a shell that you can wrap whatever you want. But when you make a wonderful filling, that's what gets this dish, that's nice taste, flavor, and texture. If you make a wonderful filling like I did with the sauce, that's what makes it. Okay. Now we're gonna plate our crepes here. I got one. I'm gonna put two on the plate. You can do more, but as you can see, I got the other one heating up over here. It's nice when they're warm. They're easy to roll because sometimes they're like cold, they can crack. But if you warm them up a little bit, and it's nice because that way they're done. And like you saw, I have them here. I got a little wax paper in between. That way they don't stick together. You can make them, a few hours ahead of time and keep them ready. Just heat them up when the time comes. Okay. Look at this. Now it's delicate when I roll them up. There you go. Have the other one here. As you can see, it's very easy. But again, it's one of those things that you gotta have a lot of patience. Sometimes this is the easy part. When you're a chef and you get to cook, it's fun because most of the times you're doing other things, management stuff, and it's sometimes it's not too fun. You know what I'm saying? And, this is the easy part when you start to look at that now. Now we have this little extra sauce. You're just gonna put it over the top of the crepes. Okay. It's got a nice color in here. Now I got my, look at that. It's very simple, easy dish to do. But again, it's very tasty. If you make a nice sauce, you're really gonna, enjoy that. I always mention color. You use white plates when plating, as you can see, it stands out really nice. Sometimes, that's why you see the restaurants, they always use white china. That's the main reason why we use white china, because of the presentation. It really, brings it out. I'm not gonna. As you guys can see, it was pretty quick, easy to make, and there you go. Lobster crepes that you can, easily make at home. And I hope you guys enjoy this like I did, and I see you next week for another great topic. Thank you, and have a nice day, everybody.